The Denver Nuggets have been out of the playoffs for about 1 week and 2 days now, and it doesn't still feel real. But in this episode, we're going to talk all about Jamal Murray and what happened this year, what his season was like, but also what can we expect and what should we expect from him next season. Let's talk about all that and more here at Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome into Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Shout out to y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Y'all, this episode is brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, y'all. Talk some Nuggets, man. So if you've seen the headline of today's episode, the episode is obviously about Jamal Murray. Now, I think if you have listened to me for long enough, some of you have listened to me since 2020. Some of y'all, maybe this is your first year getting to know me. I think Jamal Murray is an incredible basketball player. I think he's an incredible basketball player. He's one of the best players in the NBA, in the association. His playmaking, his shot making, even the shot creation off the dribble, his headsy tween bag, his ability to get in and out of the pick and roll. And even when he's fully healthy and locked in as a defender at 6'4.5", he just presents a lot of problems for the offense. You know, we saw in that Boston Celtics game in the regular season, Jason Tatum trying to go at him in the post. He's able to get a couple stops here and there. And even versus players like LeBron James, a lot bigger than him, because of his size, he still presents more of an issue in the post than a lot of other guards in the same position. But I think the question of Jamal is going to be eligible, y'all, for a $200 million deal for about 4 years. And he's going to be making about $50 million a year if he signs the extension, if they sign him to an extension this summer. Now, here's the thing about Jamal. Jamal Murray, face value, is basically two different players. You have Jamal Murray playoffs, because Jamal Murray in the playoffs in his career has been a really good player, basically a 25-5-5 player in his playoff career. His numbers in the playoffs, they look like a player that's an all-NBA player, one of the best players of his generation, and he really is able to rise to a level where he is just able to shot make and play make, and the barrage in the fourth quarter, the barrage in the third quarter, his ability to get in and out of his spots, really, it sets him apart from a lot of other players. And Jamal Murray even has this kind of mysticism about him at this point now, where people look at him, and by and large, prior to this run, they say, man, Jamal Murray's been incredible. You know, including this season, Jamal Murray is averaging 24.2 points a game, 6.2 assists, 4.9 rebounds, shooting 46% from the field, 39% from three on 7 attempts a game, and 91% from the free throw line. And he's a plus 225 in his playoff career. Now, in the 2023 playoffs, when they won the NBA final, Jamal Murray that year, crazy. 26.1 points per game, 7.1 assists, 1.5 steals, 5.7 rebounds, 47% from the field, which is the second highest of his career behind the bubble, and then 39.6% from three. And then he shot 92.6% from the free throw line. And in the course of that playoff run, Jamal Murray was a plus 181 in the 20-game sample size that he played in that playoffs. Jamal Murray, that playoff, 799 minutes, 522 points, 113 rebounds, 142 assists over that run. And this also includes the fact that Jamal Murray was such a tantalizing player because his ability to play without Jokic in that run was incredible. So you had this version of Jamal, like back-to-back bubble year and championship year. We saw Jamal in the playoffs. Jamal is basically a 26, 6.5, 5.2 player, shooting 42% from three and about 48.5% from the field. That's incredible. That's kind of Jamal Murray at his apex when he's playing at that level as an all-NBA, all-star caliber player. You're getting a 26, 6.5 assist player, 5 rebounds on really good shooting splits. Indomitable. And that's why the Nuggets are so good when he's at his apex. But then in this year, in this iteration of Jamal Murray, 12 games played this year. And I want to be clear about this. Jamal Murray had shin issues. He had lingering issues injury-wise that led him into this season, dealing with the coming off the championship and just kind of having a lull into the year. He started off really well, but then in the regular season, he missed 23 games this year, had a litany of injuries as well, including just managing some pain. But then Jamal comes into the playoffs and he has the shin issues, and you could just tell something was off. He wasn't quite the same player that we're all used to so far in the playoffs. And you could tell this because when he went to the playoffs, I was like, he's playing versus Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. Jamal Murray's going to cook. He's going to cook because they just don't have any answer for him. Last year in the Western Conference Finals, 32, 5-5 on 50, 40, 90 in the series. That's incredible. I think the first player in the Western Conference Finals ever to do that. It was like him and Steph Curry, period, doing that. Like just going insane. And so you just figured based on the regular season play, even like Jamal, like he's going to cook. Now, if you look at the numbers, Jamal versus the Lakers, 23.6 points per game. That's pretty good. 7.2 assists. That's really good. 4.6 rebound. That's also good. But Jamal shot 40% from the field and 29% from three and 85.7% from the free throw line. 85.7% from the free throw line. Jamal Murray shooting 40% from the field. That's a telltale sign for me. Jamal Murray shooting 29% from three. That's a telltale sign for me. Now in game 1, 39 minutes, 22 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. Not at 24 from the field. It's just a bad start. 37% from the field, but he was 44% from three. No free throws. But the thing about Jamal is you can just tell when he's like at his apex, it's just the fluidity. It's the dribbling. It's the handle. It's the communication, the step backs. It's all there. But when this playoff run happened, there was just something that was holding him back. And then he got the calf injury versus the Lakers, and it literally turned him into a different player. And then versus the Wolves, and, this is partially injury, this is partially play, the Wolves defense, all that. Jamal Murray had averaged 18.4 points a game, 4.4 assists, and 4.1 rebounds in that Wolves series. 40% from the field in back-to-back series. 33% from three. Now, he was 100% from the free throw line. He had just 12 attempts in 7 games, which is also another sign for me that Jamal Murray not getting to the free throw line at all, it also shows that he was just hampered in a way that he had not been in the previous run. And I think another part of this is it's really difficult to talk about the success or unsuccess of the Nuggets because Jamal had a calf injury and because he was obviously affected by it. Now, y'all know my policy. If you're on the court, you got to play. That's just the way it works. You're in the NBA. You're playing in the NFL. If you're playing, your team needs you to play well. It's that simple. But when you get to this point with Jamal in game 1 versus Minnesota, the Nuggets, they ended up losing that game 106-99. Jamal Murray, 6 of 14 from the field, 17 points, 4 assists. And he was 6 of 14, 2 of 4 from three. He was a minus 22 in that game. Now, Jamal obviously got hampered, totally. And then in game 2, he had 8 points and 13 rebounds. And he was 3 of 18 from the field for 16.7% from the field and 0% from three. And he was a minus 16 in that game. First 2 games of this series, Jamal Murray was averaging 12.5 points per game. And then he proceeded to pick it up ever so slightly Because he had 24, 4-5 the next game, 19, 5-8 the next game, and then 16, 1-4. And those are the games that the Nuggets won, the 3 straight games that he won. And he shot 52% from the field, 47% from the field, and 50% from the field in those 3 games. And then he shot 41% from 3 as well. But then the last 2 games, Jamal Murray, game 6, 10, 2, and 5. Now they got blown out, 45-point blowout. It was just like, it was cooked. Jokic went out. I think they were down 9 at the top of the second quarter. Comes back in the game with like an 18-point deficit. They just kind of like everything kind of went away from them. And again, that's their second blown series when they're up 3-2 in their career. They did that to the Portland Trail Blazers in 2019, and they did it again this year. Again, you got to close out the series. It's just unacceptable. But what I wanted to talk about in these segments is the injuries are clearly affecting him, but I wanted you all just to get an idea of the places that Jamal Murray really suffered at this season. Now, if you look at this year, Jamal Murray, he shot pretty well, like from the 3-point line. I mean, that was his biggest asset. It was just the fact that Jamal Murray was able to shoot 42% from 3 in the regular season. And that is a big deal because you just want to be able to like extend the defense as much as possible with Jamal, with Jokic. 21.2 points per game, 6.5 assists, 4.1 rebounds. And again, Jamal, 21, 4, and 6, shooting 48% from the field and 42.5% from the 3-point line and 85% from the free throw line. That's really good. That's really good. And if you saw the last 5 games for Jamal leading into the playoffs, you were just like, man, he looks like he's back to his normal self. But then you just kind of look deeper into the numbers on the season, and it's just like there were just some lapses in his game that really came out to play in the playoff because he just wasn't able to create the separation and get to the key spots that a lot of guards do. If you watch Luka, you watch SGA, you watch Kyrie even, you watch Jalen Brunson, Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards. Like you watch other guards, Steph Curry even, like their ability to get to the rim and to get to their spots and create, that's the thing that makes them so difficult to deal with. And this year, Jamal Murray from the rim basically shot 65% from 0 to 3 feet. Last year, the year before, 67%. The year before that, smaller sample size, 81%. The year before that, he shot 67% as well. So Jamal Murray, like, decreased. He had his worst shooting season at the rim in the last 4. Now, his volume was the second highest this season. Basically, 16.6% of his shots were at the rim. But Jamal shot 46% from 3 to 10, which is pretty good. 45% from 10 to 16 from that mid-range spot, which is good. But again, Jamal Murray in 2020, 2021 shot 49.6% from mid-range. And then the year before that, 47%. And then Jamal Murray, like I said, 42.5% from 3. Jamal had 19 dunks this year. So again, that's pretty good. The year before he had 19. In 2020, 2021, he had 19. And then again, prior to the injury, 29 and 25 and 27. 29, 25, 27. So you can just see even his explosiveness has kind of dipped a little bit. And most of this because of play style, though. Like it felt like after the injury, he started to be able to move more into like a Chris Paul role, which is like lower maintenance athleticism, but you want to maintain high value shot making by utilizing different spots on the court. And then on top of this, you want to make sure that you're playmaking and distributing at a good level as well. And again, he's actually done a really good job at that. And so I want to credit him for that. But what I think is the most disappointing thing is I don't blame Jamal for the injury, but there have just consistently been mentions that he is not always in shape, which, again, I can't confirm or deny that because I'm not watching him work out. But there have just been mentions that there are things that he could be doing to better take care of his body at times. Now, again, cannot confirm or deny that. But I just think there are some things that Jamal Murray can do to significantly help him going into this next year. And I even have a larger question about, can Jamal Murray be the all-star, all-NBA player that we all know that he can be, that I even predicted that he would be coming into this season? So when we come back, we're going to talk about that on the other side here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money line, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We'll be right back for more here on Locked On Nuggets. Y'all, welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. This is your host, Swiper. This is your team every day. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Make sure, y'all, if you're listening to this on the podcast side, you give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes. That way we can continue to build up this great basketball community here on this side. A lot of off-season content that's headed your way. And on YouTube, make sure you give us a like, a share, and subscribe, and let the people know where you like getting some of your favorite Denver Nuggets content. So, y'all, let's chat. Can Jamal Murray turn into an all-star this year? Like I said, I mentioned earlier his contracts. Jamal Murray, going into this next year, is going to be the last year of the 5-year contract he signed in 2019. Jamal Murray is going to be making $36 million next year, which is just 25% of the league cap. And that's going to be a fairly low rate. Like, Jamal Murray making $36 million is obviously like, that's a crazy deal. Basically, him and Porter making the same amount of money. And he's just a different kind of player than Porter, obviously. But Jamal is going to be eligible for basically about a $200 million contract. And I think the thing with Jamal is, can he become the all-star player? Yes. Can he become the all-NBA player? Yes. But that's going to be entirely up to Jamal Murray, entirely up to how he comes into the season. Because, again, you can't always help. This is just the way of the business. You can't always help injuries. You can't always help the fact that you're going to get nicked up and you're going to have to deal with that stuff. But I think some of this is knowing that you're in the middle of Jokic's primes and you're in a situation where, and I talked about this in other places, Jokic just won his 3rd MVP. Jokic is the first player, I believe, in NBA history to win 4 straight MVPs. So 3 MVPs and a Finals MVP in 4 straight seasons. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. But we're in a situation now where Jokic is going into his age 29 season. And on top of that, we're in a situation where Jokic is obviously getting a Supermax. He's going to be even eligible for Supermax again, I think, in a couple years. He could be the first, just his numbers could be insane. But Joker is a machine. He's continuing to get better. He's continuing to find ways to take care of business, but he clearly got fatigued in the playoffs. Now, some of that's coming off the run, but also on the other end of this, I think Jamal has to look at Devin Booker's surge that he went on when he got Chris Paul. I think Jamal has to look at players like SGA in the last 2 years, who second in the MVP race this year, first team All-NBA the year before. I think players like even Ant, Kyrie Irving, Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey went from a player that was a good young player to now being an all-star. And Tyrese Maxey was really good for a majority of this year and was able to carry the load without Joel Embiid. Now, the thing is that if you ask me in the playoff vacuum, I definitely get why people would want to pick Jamal Murray. But I think the problem is, if you're Murray, you got to look around the league and say, Tyrese Maxey in the playoffs this year, he played 6 games, 29.8 points per game, 6.8 assists, 5.2 rebounds, a 59.5 true shooting. He shot 40% from three and 47.8% from the field and 89% from the line. Those are Jamal Murray numbers. Jamal's even more efficient than that a little bit at times. But that was Tyrese Maxey in the playoffs. Tyrese Maxey this last regular season, 25.9 points, 6.2 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 45% from the field, 37% from three on 8 attempts a game. Now, again, a lot of that's volume. Tyrese Maxey was taking 20 shots a game this last year. Jamal Murray doesn't take 25 shots a game. So you're going to get that kind of discrepancy. Jamal Murray is taking 16 shots a game. So, yeah, if Tyrese Maxey is getting 20 shots a game, Jamal Murray is getting 16 shots a game, that's where you're going to get some of that profile. Jamal Murray was a more accurate shooter from across the board. But I think what I want to see from him is when Devin Booker went to that next level, it was his body that changed. It was his mentality that changed. It was his approach to the game that really changed and elevated him to a place to where he became a true number one-ish option, where he was able to be an all-NBA player, first-team all-NBA, and then also transition into the playoffs where he's been able to put up for runs 29 or more. He got 40-plus points versus the Wolves earlier this year in the first round. But we're in a situation now where Jamal Murray, you're kind of being passed up by players that are younger than you and players that are in your tier group. And for me, if you're playing next to a 3-time MVP, you just have to expect better and expect more from yourself. It's really just that simple. I think that this is the moment for Jamal. I think that this is the moment for Jamal where he looks at his record, he looks at his resume, he looks at his splits, he looked at how he played in the playoff, 18-4-4 versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. You lose in 7. If you play better in game 1, maybe it's different. If you're able to come out with more tenacity in game 6, it's different. Like, there are just things that happen. In game 2, he didn't start off shooting well at all versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think he might have missed his first 9 shots that game. And those were momentum swinging misses that he had, and that put them behind the 8 ball. So I think Murray has to take a look at the NBA, take a look at himself. And I just think this is the offseason that everything has to change for him, and he goes forward. Because Jamal Murray is in a prime opportunity. You're playing with the best player in the world. You're playing with the player that, despite not hitting his 3-point shots, he still was able to average 29, 11, and 8. Like, that's crazy. And then he averaged 29, 13, and 8 over the course of the 2 rounds that he played this year, 62.5 true shooting, including he didn't make his 3-pointers. Obviously, his jump shot kind of faded away in this run. But I just think that Jamal, there's an approach that I want him to be able to have. And I think there's an approach that the team is going to need him to have, especially if he's going to be a max player, especially if he's going to get that kind of money. There is just a level of play that has to meet. And right now, it's just not enough. And again, we talked about this last year too, in the summer, starting fast. First 25 games last year, Jamal Murray, 20.5 points a game, 6.2 assists, 3.8 rebounds. And then on top of that, he shot 41% from 3, really good, 47% from the field, and 89.3% from the free throw line. So again, his efficiency is pretty good. But I truly feel that, like, Jamal Murray, the next level for him is being able to come into a regular season and at least give you 23, 24 points a game. Because I do think there does need to be a little bit of regression. A little bit of regression on the behalf of Joker's offensive output, because it's just going to be more needed for him come playoff time. Because now, next time he goes to the playoffs, he's going to be 30 years old, which is obviously still at your apex. But you just want to now put Joker in a situation where he's being able to utilize himself in the most pristine and best ways possible. Like, I talked about this before too, but Nikola Jokic is a one-on-one player. He's going to end up being a top 10, maybe top 7 player of all time when he's done. If you look at the other players in that list, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, consistent all-NBA all-star player. LeBron James, name him. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, Magic Johnson, if you look at somebody, obviously Magic for me is 4. Bill Russell played with Hall of Famers. Tim Duncan had Manu, had Tony, David Robinson early on in his career. Then you look at Hakeem. Hakeem had some really good teams those 2 years he won the title. And then if you look at players like Kobe Bryant, obviously Shaquille O'Neal, Pau Gasol. You look at other players like Larry Bird. Larry Bird played with a bunch of All-Stars, a bunch of Hall of Fame players. Kevin McHale, Parrish, all them. And then now, obviously, if you look at players like even Wilt had players like Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and even obviously the Kevin Durant years, they were just a juggernaut. If you just look at players that are making up these upper echelon NBA players, they all had these elite number 2 options that could facilitate the number 1s that helped them to carry across the road. And even if you think about the bigs, Bill Russell, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem, like David Robinson, they had players, Shaquille O'Neal, they had players. And especially if you have a dynastic kind of team, they had players around them that they're just able to point to say, this is what I need on a night in, night out basis. And obviously the best definition of that is going to be Kobe. Definitely going to be Kobe. Because Kobe was just able to be next to Shaq. Shaq was probably the best player in the world, 2000 to 2002, this 3-year period. Probably the best player in the world, hands down. Now, the thing is that Kobe was able to come into his own where he was just becoming like an all-time legend. His shot making, his defense, his tenacity, his playmaking, his passing. He just was able to do so many things, and that helped to accentuate everything that Shaq was. And I think when I look at this playoff run, Jokic didn't have his best shooting run, didn't have his best defensive run, but I just think that the fatigue got there at some point. And I just think that he just needed more over the course of the year. And I think that Jamal Murray has to be one of the answers. Now, if you ask me, they're going to need a combo guard, somebody like Nickeil Alexander-Walker that's going to play next to Murray without Jamal Murray. They're going to have to upgrade from Reggie Jackson. They're going to need a big for real, like a real role big. Now, if Jamal Murray, if you asked him to run a team, Jamal Murray could, you give him a rim rolling big, let's say a good one, like a good rim rolling big, like a Jaren Jackson Jr. or something like that, or obviously if you had Anthony Davis, he would just be a different player. Because if it wasn't like Jokic in the system, it was like a standard pick and roll, pull up shooter, playmate type situation. Well, then yeah, Jamal's going to be like ice cold, like ice. But this situation is different. Jamal has to play a different level of basketball. His numbers are going to go down because I think the shooting opportunities for there are not as consistent. But when I look at Jamal, the Nuggets need to prioritize getting him a combo guard that he can focus offensively, doesn't have to exert the amount of energy he needs. He's going to have to at times defensively because you just have a switchable guard that's able to take that assignment. And that was the biggest difference with Bruce Brown and Reggie Jackson. Bruce Brown just allowed a lot more dexterity for the Nuggets lineup and allowed more flexibility for Jamal Murray's game. Whereas this year, it was like Reggie Jackson, Colin Gillespie. They just are, neither one of them are good enough ball handler playmakers and then not near enough good defenders to make his life easier. And then on the other end of this, you even got players like Jalen Pickett. They're just so young. Who knows? Maybe Jalen Pickett's going to be a really good player. But Calvin Booth had this idea that he wanted to develop this younger team because of the CBA agreements and the apron stuff. Like, I get it. But, I mean, if I'm the Nuggets, I think prioritizing Jokic's prime, the thing that is just important is prioritizing Jamal Murray's health and durability. And I think he needs a defensive on-ball guard that's able to do that at a high level consistently. That way it can take some of the responsibility off him, off that end, and he can take care of business like he needs to. So now I really believe in Jamal, man. I think he truly has all NBA talent. I think his playoff numbers are real. I think who he's shown us to be in the playoff for most of his career is real. But I just think that this just comes with the territory. If you're playing next to an all-time great player, that the number 2, you just have to be able to carry your load. And I know due to injury, he wasn't able to do that over the course of this year and then obviously in the playoff, but it's just going to become ever important that he's able to take care of business, y'all. But y'all, let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Do you think Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets should come to an agreement on the contract immediately? Do you think that's something that he'll be able to live up to? Do you expect Jamal Murray to be able to make an all-star game this very next year? What do you think he needs to be better on the other side, y'all? This is your boy Swiper. This is Locked On Nuggets. I'll see y'all on the other side.